Part 45. The Country Life of a Rich Dad. Author, Wo Shihami Gua. Chapter 441. Dad. Seeing Li Zifeng running towards him with a phone and a sad face, Li Chen stopped what he was doing and asked, "What's wrong?" Li Zifeng picked up the phone and clicked on the comments. Wow, there are already 6 or 7 million likes alone, which is as much as what he had filmed before. What's more terrible is that there are 300,000 or 400,000 comments below. This ratio is totally unscientific. They are all scolding us, and some are scolding you. Li Zifeng was a little unhappy. It's obviously only for those who are willing to watch it, but she can't figure out why more and more people are arguing and scolding now. She can dislike her stupid sister, but she doesn't want others to say that about Xiao Wu. She is very unhappy. Not to mention, those guys are still scolding Dad. Li Chen looked at the comments and then smiled. "You are very angry, right?" "Yeah," Li Zifeng nodded. "It's normal to be angry," Li Chen put down the hoe and said, "but, just read the things on the internet, especially this kind of thing. Look at this one, it's just for the sake of criticizing. You don't need to care too much." "But..." Li Zifeng was a little confused. How could he not care? "Xiao Feng, you are still young. Dad shouldn't have told you these things at your age, but since you have been exposed to them, Dad will tell you that there are some things that you can't judge with normal people's reason and logic. Everything is not perfect. Some people like it and some don't. What you have to do is to remember your original intention. The purpose of your shooting is to record a beautiful life and to show the living conditions of you and your sister to those friends on the other side of the network, isn't it?" "Yeah. So, it's enough for you to care about them. As for those who say that we teach children bad things and those who say that our family is eye-catching, let them stay aside. Money can't make everyone like it, let alone us." Li Chen touched Li Zifeng's little head. "If you still care about these, then Dad will teach you a way." "What is it?" Li Zifeng's eyes flashed. "Just take pictures of our Dahong, Xiaohong, and others, and don't explain anything." Li Zifeng tilted her head, not really understanding. "But since Dad said so, just do it yourself." Watching Li Zifeng leave, Li Chen smiled and continued to work. There shouldn't be so many interests and calculations in the world of children, but it seems that those people like to do so. There are those who use their family to get attention, those who use their family to increase fans, and those who use their family to criticize the entire network environment. There are even many. Li Chen didn't intend to pay attention, but he didn't want Xiaofeng and Xiao to be affected. "Didn't you say that our family is fake and staged? Then I'll let Xiaofeng take more photos." Many things can't stand scrutiny. When Li Zifeng posts a video, a lot of people will talk about the cost. But after Li Zifeng posts several videos in succession, many people's mouths will be blocked. Of course, there are also those who don't want to wake up, and Li Chen also has a way to make them sober, but for now, Li Chen is unwilling to do so. But if someone really bullies his precious daughter, then this matter can't be settled peacefully. Glancing at the system, there are only 556428 return points left, and he can't help but feel helpless. This is the consequence of raising the cultivation to the limit in one go. The return points are not enough. More than 550,000 is really not enough to fill the gaps in my teeth. I still have to keep spending money, otherwise the Ya family, the UN family, the Pan family and even the village will stagnate. After exchanging 550,000 return points, there are only more than 200,000 drops of vitality water, which is really too little. Li Chen first exchanged 50,000 return points of vitality water for his own use. The remaining 500,000 was directly exchanged for 250,000 UN of vitality water, divided into 3 parts. Sent to the Ya family, the UN family and the Pan family respectively. When everything was done, Li Chen only had 6,428 return points left. A complete pauper. The sky gradually darkened. Xiao Wu. Li Biwu, who was strolling in the village with Dahong, Xiaohong, Dabai, and others, started running back. Now she is the big sister of the village. With Dabai, Erbei, and Sanbei protecting her, who dares to bully her? Not to mention the fighting power of the chickens such as Dahong and Xiaohong. Even Li Xiaoliu and the others were scared. Let's get ready to go back. Okay. Li Biwu ran over, touched Dabai and the others' heads and said, Dababai, be good, I'm going back with Daba. Quack, Dabai and the others rubbed against Li Biwu, then raised their heads and said, second sister, let's go. Li Zifeng led Li Biwu and waved to Dabai and the others. After returning to the new house in the town, Li Chuanlong took Xiao and Xiaofeng to wash up one after another. Li Chen simply cleaned up the house and went to Rongcheng tomorrow. He did what he needed to do. Woof woof. Daodu came to Li Chen's side, looking like a dog licker. Master, take me there tomorrow. Li Chen kicked Daodu aside. What are you going to do? Of course, to protect the little master and sister, I promised the mistress. Daodu grinned and barked at Li Chen. Li Chen didn't want to talk to Daodu. He was going to do business tomorrow, not just for fun. Ouch. Daodu ran away directly, and then pulled Li Biwu and ran to Li Chen. Little master, please persuade the master. Baba Li Biwu took the gourd baby and threw it into Li Chen's arms. Does it smell good? Fragrant. Li Biwu laughed when he heard this, and hugged Li Chen's arms. Papa, do you want to bring Daodu? Without. Why Sen? Because it's stupid. Woof woof woof. Daodu is very angry. Master, you are stupid, Daodu is so smart. After retorting to Li Chen, Daodu arched Li Biwu again. Little master, please tell me quickly. Li Biwu put her arms around Li Chen's neck and said, shall we take Daodu with us? Then Xiao Wu, tell Dad, why do you need to bring Daodu? Because Daodu is very loving, Li Biwu said seriously. It can also protect me and my second sister. Woof woof. Daodu was so moved that he looked at Li Chen and the meaning was obvious, you must take me with you. Li Chen was also convinced that this dead dog would still be on its way. Okay, Li Chen waved his hand and said, you will follow me tomorrow, but you are not allowed to run around. Woof woof. Daodu was spinning around the living room excitedly. Li Biwu was also very happy, hugging Li Chen and having a passionate kiss. It's getting late. Go to bed early. Dad will take you out to play tomorrow, Li Chen said with a smile. Okay, Li Biwu took the Calabash brothers and ran into the house, saying, will the sixth baby be invisible tonight? The Country Life of a Rich Dad. Author, Wo Shihami Gua. Chapter 442. It shouldn't be invisible. Li Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Why is this stupid kid still talking about the sixth baby? Daodu, who was following Xiao Wu and about to go in, was stopped by Li Chen. Woof woof. Daodu looked at Li Chen. Why are you calling me? I'm going to go to bed with my little master. You wash the dog's paws before going to bed. Daodu immediately became unhappy and raised the dog's paw to look at it. It was very clean. Go take a shower, Li Chen pointed to the bathroom. Daodu, who was worried about being beaten, went to wash up, and then accompanied Xiao Wu to bed. Diamond sued. Because she was worried about Xiao Dan's bedwetting, Li Zifeng went to sleep with her great-grandfather. The euphemistic name is to give Xiao Wu a space to perform on the bed. Li Chen was also dumbfounded and too lazy to say anything. After washing, Li Chen lay quietly on the bed and took out his mobile phone. Xiaolong, are you here? Not long after, a text message came from the phone. Exist. Where's your grandpa? I'm going to bed. Okay, Li Chen didn't plan to call, for the sake of his son's safety. How is the situation over there now? I heard that Gao Xiaja is missing, Li Donglong asked. How do you know? Grandpa said it. Li Donglong told the truth. I doubt, Grandpa didn't do it. Li Chen sat up slightly and asked, why do you see that? Because when Grandpa said this, he also had a trace of doubt and doubt. Obviously, he also felt surprised, as if someone had taken action before him, forcing the Gao family to jump over the wall, Li Donglong explained. Hearing this, Li Chen also pondered slightly. The information from Pei Jianghe's investigation also has the same meaning. Because of Gao Xiaja's disappearance, the entire Gao family became in danger. It is said that the Gao family is ready to sell everything in the company at all costs and to run away. You mean, your grandfather didn't send anyone to attack the Gao family? No, Li Donglong affirmed, on the contrary, he sent people to help the Gao family, but what? But the Gao family doesn't seem to accept it, and they even want to draw a clear line, Li Donglong said. More importantly, I found a new clue. What? Grandpa, maybe he cares more about Xiao Wu. Hearing this, Li Chen was stunned. What does it mean? What does it mean to care more about Xiao Wu? Didn't it mean that Murong Hungs had been particularly disgusted with Xiao Wu since Xiao Wu was born? Because of Xiao Wu's physical condition, Xiao Wu is the one least favored by the Murong family among the 4 children. But now, the eldest son told himself that Murong Hungs cared more about Xiao Wu. This doesn't make sense. What do you mean? Even Li Chen was a little confused. Li Donglong scratched his hair and said, I don't know how to say it. Anyway, I think things are very complicated now, and I also want to tell you that this time the concerns of the forces behind the 4 major families may be even more complicated. You have to be careful. Yeah, I know. Li Chen had already been prepared. Dad, although I don't know what our Li family is worthy of coveting, I made a bold guess. Either Grandpa and Grandma were hiding a secret back then, or, this secret might be with you. For example, such as I came back from the dead, Li Chen took up the topic and asked. Right. But Li Donglong typed nervously, I now find that I can't understand the chess played by my grandpa. He doesn't seem to be disgusted with Xiao Wu. He keeps me by his side, and I don't think he is that innocent. Li Chen's heart skipped a beat. He felt so too. But the problem is that now he can't investigate anything more. You stay put for now. I will go to Chengdu tomorrow. Some things should come to light, Li Chen said. When I find out some truth, I will take you back. The Murong family can't stop your father this time. Dad, don't be impulsive. The 4 major families may have opened a big net, just waiting for you to jump in. I know. Li Chen smiled and said, you protect yourself first, and I will arrange for someone to come over to protect you. Even if your grandfather has a backup plan, as long as he is not a strong man in the heavenly realm, I believe there is no people can touch you. Good. After chatting with Li Donglong, the 2 father and son deleted all chat records with a tacit understanding. Li Chen leaned against the bed and pondered. Li Donglong gave him some different news tonight. But Li Chen became more and more confused. What did the old man Murong Hungs want to do? Why does this matter involve Xiao Wu? Li Chen pinched his eyebrows and thought carefully. He decided to reorganize the clues. Schwer had a child with him because of Murong Hung's arrangement. There were 4 of them, Xiao Long and the others, and then, Xiao Wu was lost because of his physical condition. Assuming that all this was arranged by Murong Hungs, then Xiao Wu's appearance allowed him to smoothly come into contact with the truth. So much so that he started heading to the capital. There can be no mistakes in any part of it, so Murong Hungs followed throughout the whole process. In fact, Li Chen is now certain that Murong Hungs controlled everything from Murong Shue's 10 years of house arrest to the hundreds of billions of ransoms that followed. At the same time, he cleared all obstacles from the Murong family and completely controlled the Murong family. Then, by pushing this hand, he dragged the Ye family, Yun family, Pan family, Zheng family, Mu family, and He family into the water. There is no problem with this. But combined with what Xiao Long said just now, Li Chen can deduce another possibility. Xiao Wu is the key. I died once before, and there is no way to check this for the time being. Maybe I will find it when I go to Rongcheng tomorrow. Was my resurrection an accident? Or is it also one of the links? If it is really one of the links, then Li Chen will be terrified. Because, that will involve two people he has never considered, his parents. Li Hoqiang and Zhao Yufeng. Li Chen clearly remembers that his system was turned on after he met Xiao Wu. What if Murong Hong's skull is the system? Did he know that I have a system a long time ago? But this doesn't make sense. Since he knew it before, why wait so long? Wouldn't it be better to take it away directly? Why does the system only activate when Xiao Wu contacts him? The more Li Chen thought about it, the more headache he had. He had previously thought that the destruction of the Li family by the four major families was just a simple business competition. The more he understood these things, the more he found that it didn't seem to be the case. More importantly, what role did his parents play in this? Are you really dead? Li Chen couldn't help but mutter to himself. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Country Life of a Rich Dad. Author, Wo Shihami Gua. Chapter 443. As certain things gradually surfaced, Li Chen's suspects gradually expanded. Before this, he had never doubted his biological parents. But now, he had to start to doubt. Are Li Hoqiang and Zhao Yufeng really dead? Diamond sued. Li Chen sat quietly for a long time and couldn't get an answer. There is nothing in the Li family that is worthy of competition from outsiders. If there is anything, it is our own system. But the problem is that my system was only turned on when I met Xiao Wu before. Before that, perhaps it had been hidden within her body? Li Chen shook his head, lay down and abandoned all distracting thoughts. After tomorrow, there may be a result. Grandpa Li Chuanlong is always the first to wake up in the family, and he still chooses to make breakfast by himself. In his words, the breakfast he made was safe and healthy. When the pure fragrance wafted over, Li Biwu had already climbed out of bed. Grandpa. Li Biwu, who had fluffy hair, raised his little head and looked at the table. Daodu also got up. Li Chuanlong glanced at his great-granddaughter and couldn't help but smile when he saw her greedy and confused look. Gently helping Li Biwu tidy up his hair, Li Chuanlong said, "Go and wake up your father and sister quickly, get ready for breakfast." Okay. Li Biwu jumped up and took Daodu to his sister Li Zifeng's room first. Grandpa's room doesn't have many things, and it's extremely clean and tidy. The second sister Li Zifeng is still sleeping soundly, and her sleep quality is obviously quite good. Second sister, get up and go to bed." Li Biwu lay on Li Zifeng's face and urged her with a sweet voice. Li Zifeng opened her eyes, was startled, and stepped back before she recovered. Li Biwu with his chicken coop head is actually a bit scary. Wow! Li Biwu opened the curtains, and the dazzling sunlight shone in. Li Zifeng's sleepiness immediately disappeared. Li Biwu jumped to Li Chen's room again. Seeing the darkness in the room, she made a low-pitched gesture to Daodu. He took off his shoes and crawled towards Li Chen gently. "Xiao Wu." "Ah Chuck." Xiao Wu, who was suddenly turned over and hugged by Li Chen, struggled wildly and screamed in fright. After reacting, Xiao Wu started to play shyly with Li Chen again. "Daddy, why are you awake?" "Because my little cutie is here." He. Li Biwu was so happy that he poked Li Chen's cheek and said, "Papa is a lazy insect." Yes, Dad is a slacker. Li Chen picked up Li Biwu and threw him up. Xiao Wu screamed in fright. Li Chen played with Li Biwu for a while, and both father and daughter regained their spirits. After rinsing his mouth and brushing his teeth, Li Chen led sisters Xiao Wu and Xiao Feng to sit in the restaurant. 3 generations of ancestors and grandsons started to become fans. Today I will take Xiao Feng and Xiao to Rongcheng, Li Chen said. Li Chuanlong's movements paused slightly, obviously he had thought of something. You sure? Yes, Li Chen nodded seriously. Would it be inappropriate to take them there? Li Chuanlong was a little worried. There's nothing inappropriate. Li Chen shook his head and said, by the way, let them pay homage to their grandparents. Li Chuanlong said no more and only said pay attention to safety. After breakfast, Li Chen drove Li Chuanlong back to the village. Then, he called out the poisonous snake again. Li Zifeng and Li Biwu recognized it at a glance. It was the red snake from the past few days. Li Chen put the snake in the car. At first, Li Biwu and Li Zifeng were scared to death. But when Li Chen told them that they could touch them, the 2 dolls still didn't dare. In the end, it was Hong Kaojin who got close to the 2 children and succeeded. Daodu has been watching this venomous snake vigilantly. If it dares to do any harm to its little master sisters, it will bite the snake to death without hesitation. Daddy, Li Biwu asked, why is snake obedient? Because it is a good friend like Xiao Wu. Then, can it protect the second sister? Li Zifeng, who was sitting aside, was stunned for a moment and looked at the stupid sister blankly. Why do you want to protect the second sister? Li Chen asked curiously. Because Xiao has Daodu, but the second sister doesn't have it yet. Wearing a small flower can protect the second sister, and we won't be afraid in the future. Li Chen smiled when he heard this and said, okay, then let Xiahua protect your second sister. He, Li Biwu smiled happily, leaned in front of the poisonous snake, and said in a sweet voice, Xiahua, you have to protect my second sister from now on. Hiss. The venomous snake, known as Xiahua, immediately agreed with its snake-shaped tongue. He gently circled Li Zifeng's side. Back in the town, Wu Chuping and Nangong Hangchuo had been waiting for a long time. Master Li Xian, Wu Chuping and others looked at Li Chen with admiration and heat. Let's go to Chengdu, Li Chen said. When this matter is resolved, Li Chen will thank you greatly. Don't dare, Wu Chuping and others shook their heads. Master Li Xian helped us treat our stubborn illnesses and helped us make breakthroughs in martial arts. It is a huge kindness. Nangong Hangchuo and others also refused. Li Chen spent at least tens of billions on them. It was their duty to repay them, so how dare they ask for repayment? What's more, they had learned something after half a day and one night yesterday. After learning about Li Chen's situation, everyone was indignant and in a heavy mood. Some things are not secrets at all. It's really not difficult to find out. The Li family was wiped out, there is no doubt about it. It is reasonable for Li Chen to take revenge. They don't care about right or wrong, and now they owe Li Chen a big favor, so they should pay it back. Then let's go. Li Chen was not polite. Chengdu. Gao Durong looked at the crowd in front of him and couldn't help but let out a long breath. Thank you, sir. Gao Durong bowed to the middle-aged man in front of him. I found your son for you. The middle-aged man flicked his fingers lightly, and Gao Ziaja, who was lying motionless with a pale face, suddenly opened his eyes and gasped. Dad! Gao Ziaja almost cried after seeing his father. Ziaja, thank the Grandmaster. Gao Ziaja was startled and said quickly, thank you for saving my life, Grandmaster. The middle-aged man Emojias Hung nodded lightly and said, I saved you only because you still have some use for the Gao family. We are all cooperating. Don't worry about this little thing. Gao Durong's family was smiling. No matter what, at least his son was saved. Master. It's bad. You are so flustered, what's wrong? Gao Durong frowned slightly and scolded, "What's the matter?" Li Chen is here. The Country Life of a Rich Dad. Author, Wo Shihami Gua. Chapter 444. Gao Durong's expression changed slightly. "Li Chen, are you here?" After waiting for so long, he finally came. Before receiving the news of Li Chen's arrival, Gao Durong was mostly worried. But now, he is no longer so worried and nervous. Diamond sued. What's more, he already has a clear understanding of the situation in the capital. Li Chen is only at the Grand Master level, so what if he is talented? The Gao family also has a Grand Master, even a Great Master. What's more, there is still Mojia's Hung. How long will it take to arrive? An hour and a half. Okay, I understand, please step back. Gao Durong waved his hand lightly, and the man had no choice but to step back. Brother, what should I do? As soon as this person left, Gao Jianchun couldn't sit still. They knew full well that Li Chen was causing trouble in the capital. At this time, the Gao family may not be able to stop it. Gao Durong glanced at his younger brother indifferently and couldn't help but shake his head. In terms of determination, his younger brother was far behind. Grand Master, then Li Chen comes here, shall we? Before Gao Durong could finish speaking, Mojia's Hung said with a rather proud expression, "It doesn't matter, he's just a clown. But he is already at the Grand Master level, what if? You don't really think that just Li Chen can cause trouble, do you?" Mojia's Hung couldn't hide the sarcasm and contempt in his eyes. "Do you really think that the top families in the capital have this much strength?" Ah, Gao Durong and others were stunned. Is not it? The Mu family, the He family, and even the Zheng family in the first echelon were all made so embarrassed by Li Chen. Isn't this enough to explain something? Mojia's Hung shook his head and said in an educational tone, "Do you know why such large-scale battles never happened in the capital?" Gao Durong and his younger brother Gao Jianchun looked at each other and shook their heads. How can a large-scale battle take place in the capital? Mojiashan's tone was full of sarcasm and arrogance from beginning to end. What's more, there is an inspection department over there. Inspection department? Even Gao Durong looked extremely confused at this time. The inspection department is in charge of the strongest martial artists in the world. The director of the inspection department is even more powerful in the heavenly realm. With him in charge of the capital, who would dare to make a mistake? Gao Durong and the others were surprised to find that even this Grand Master, who was quite arrogant from beginning to end, was particularly respectful when he mentioned the inspection department. It was as if the director of the inspection department was some big shot. However, Gao Durong and the others didn't understand. This was the first time they heard this title. What the Grand Master means is that because the master from the inspection department is here, large-scale battles are not allowed. And the true background of the real wealthy nobles is not the 2 or 3 powerful Grand Masters on the surface. Gao Durong react to. Mojia's Hung said, as if you are not stupid yet, that's right. There are so many strong martial arts people in the world, but how many have reached the realm of masters? As for those who are strong in the heaven-human realm, they are unique. You don't really think that the strongest protective power of those families in the capital is only the master realm, do you? Gao Durong looked shocked. He really thought that the only person with the highest combat power was a Grand Master. Then what you mean is that the families in the capital are actually not injured. As long as there are powerful people in the heaven and human realm, they will still stand strong. That's right, Mojia's Hung sneered and said, "It's ridiculous that little Li family kid really thinks he can turn everything around. Don't worry, it would be better if the Li family's kid doesn't come here this time. If he really dares to come, he will definitely understand what it means to have someone outside the world." Hearing this, Gao Durong was shocked and couldn't help but feel a little confident. Then everything depends on the Grand Master. Gao Durong cupped his fists and saluted. "Cai family. Cai Wenhong slowly put down his teacup. Oh, Li Chen is coming to Chengdu. Is it to pay homage to his dead parents, or to collect debts? Cai Anwu, who was standing aside, frowned slightly. His father had become more and more arrogant since he annexed the Li family's property. Father, after all, Li Chen is also the one who stirred up troubles in the capital, and his methods are no worse than his father Li Hoqiang. Cai Anwu reminded, if the boat really capsized in the gutter, it would become a joke. You, Cai Wenhong pointed at Cai Anwu and said, do you think the old man is already arrogant? Cai Anwu was shocked and quickly lowered his head and said, I don't dare. It's true that you have been cautious since you were a child, but if this continues for a long time, you will lose your enterprising spirit. Cai Wenhong said slowly, Li Hoqiang is a hero, how can his son really be a waste? Then father? Since the kid from the Li family dares to come, he must have someone to rely on, but with a mere cultivation level as a great master, he can only go down and stay with his parents. Cai Anwu frowned, not quite understanding. The Grand Master is the most powerful person in the world. How can the four major families in Rongcheng withstand such a high level of cultivation? What's more, the industries of the four major companies have been constantly collided, acquired, and suppressed recently. The originally good market has experienced huge turbulence. In just a few days, a huge amount of wealth has been lost. If it continues at this speed, the four major families will be killed by Li Chen. Some things can't just be judged by their appearance. Cai Wenhong said, do you really think that our four major families didn't think about this day when they swallowed up the Li family? To be a pawn of a human being, you must have the awareness of being a human being. Now that the secret has not been found, how can they abandon us as a pawn? Cai Anwu vaguely understood something. You mean, the big shots in the capital might take action? He. Cai Wenhong smiled but said nothing, let's wait and see. If that Li family kid has really reached the point where he can destroy us at will, struggling is futile. In the next game, we don't even have the qualifications to be opponents. Cai Anwu was terrified. He only knew that there was someone backing the Cai family. But he never knew who it was, he only knew that it was one of the big families in the capital. But in the first echelon, there are only four major families. Dongfang, Xianyuan, Situ, and Zheng family. Who is supporting the Cai family behind the scenes? And who is standing behind the Du family and the Liang family? Which of the four major families does the Red Skull support? Cai Anwu suddenly felt overwhelmed. Although he knew that the four major families were just pawns, the feeling of not knowing anything was simply terrible. What are these people planning behind the scenes? Cai Anwu couldn't help but look outside. Li Chen, can you break the situation? The Country Life of a Rich Dad. Author, Wo Shihami Gua. Chapter 445. Oh, in a small garden, a woman dressed in a rather seductive way smiled slowly. Li Chen is here. Yes. How many people did you bring? 8 great masters, headed by Wu Chuping. The seductive woman stretched out her long and beautiful legs, as white as jade, and she wore a red dress, showing her enchantment and charm. Wu Chuping? Are they all guys who are about to die of old age? Yes. How long will it take to arrive? An hour and a half is estimated. Interesting. The woman in the red dress nodded and said, you go and notify them, wait quietly, and send a message to the capital to see if they will keep Li Chen or not. Yes. By the way, where is Li Chen's little daughter? She is also following him. The coldness in the eyes of the woman in the red dress flashed, then find a chance to catch her, the higher ups want to study her. The woman next to her was stunned, she didn't understand what this matter had to do with a little girl. The one from the Murong family never does useless work. How could he give up halfway after lying dormant for so long? The woman in the red dress smiled and said, I am now beginning to doubt whether Li Hoqiang's death was done by him. The woman next to her was shocked. Didn't the four major families force the couple to death? The woman in the red dress chuckled and shook her head. The four major families are also sheep-wolves that can't be tamed. The woman was a little confused for a while, it was so complicated. Then this Murong Hungs. It should be the same as us. The woman in the red dress shook her head. My lord said that this piece of sky used to lead to far away, but from that day 150 years ago, the road was cut off. You mean, the ancestor of the Li family in the capital? Yes, the woman in the red dress said, the road to martial arts has been cut off. Do you think the Li family should die? The woman next to her shuddered. Go, get ready. Yes. As soon as the woman left, the woman in the red dress immediately stood up and took out her mobile phone. My lord. How? Li Hoqiang's tomb is empty, the woman in the red dress reported with a serious face. Liang family. Liang Jinmei, the old lady of Liang, was eating bird's nest, and there were two women with delicate skin beside her to help her rub her shoulders and back. Grandma, Liang Jiali, the son of the third son of the Liang family, rushed in. Liang Jinmei glared at the hurried grandson and waved her hand. Liang Jiali smiled and came over. Why are you so flustered? The old lady asked, holding the bird's nest bowl. Then Li Chen is here. The old lady's hand trembled slightly, and she almost spilled the bird's nest. Li Chen. Yes, Liang Jiali's eyes flashed with a sinister look. A dog who lost his home actually dared to come back. This precious third grandson did not notice that his old lady's eyes were getting more and more gloomy. Is it finally here? Mrs. Liang muttered to herself, and said, go, call your uncle and the others. This time, it's time to root them out. Soon, the three heroes of the Liang family were called in. Mom. Liang Yizhu, Liang Yuhan, and Liang Yiwen stood respectfully beside the old lady. Li Hoqiang's son is here, do you know? Mrs. Liang asked the three people. I know. What to do? Liang Jinmei asked. The eldest brother Liang Yizhu did not speak, but the third brother spoke first. Even Li Hoqiang is dead, what's the point of Li Chen coming? Just kill him all at once. Hearing this, Mrs. Liang's eyes flashed with disappointment. Fortunately, her third grandson was not as stupid as him. Mom, the Liang family is no longer what it used to be. More importantly, our Liang family is not without a master now. Liang Yuhan, the second son of the Liang family, said, Li Chen has been hiding in Jia village before. He really thought that we couldn't touch him. In fact, it's just that we don't want to touch him, and those people don't want him to die now. A glimmer of approval flashed in the eyes of Mrs. Liang. Even the Li family can be destroyed, how can a mere Jia village stop them? However, Mrs. Liang also understood that everyone tacitly did not kill Li Chen, but they just needed to wait for a result. If Li Chen had been content with the status quo, it would be fine, but he dared to come out, which was to seek death. What does the eldest brother think? Everything is up to mother. A glimmer of displeasure flashed in the eyes of Mrs. Liang, and the sarcasm in the eyes of the second and third sons flashed by. Then tell them, let them decide. Du family. Du Yos listened to the report from the people below with a blank expression. Sitting below were Du Jiale and his eldest grandson Du Fengting. After a long time, the second son Du Xiaohu and the second grandson Du Xinyuan also came. Father, Du Xiaohu greeted. Du Xinyuan seemed more casual and lazy. After calling Du Yo's grandpa, he sat down crookedly. The remnants of the Li family have come to the door. What do you think? Du Yos asked. Li Chen, that waste. Du Xinyuan heard that his grandfather was talking about this matter, and his smile became even stronger. Do we need to hold a meeting for such a scum? Yuan Du Xiaohu shouted. Dad, Grandpa didn't say anything, what are you afraid of? Du Xingyuan was fearless and smiled at Du Yu's. Grandpa, even Li Hoxian, the hard bone, has been gnawed down. Are we still afraid of a cynical waste? Du Yu smiled and didn't argue with his grandson. What do you think? Du Xingyuan curled his lips, not to mention one Li Chen, even if there are 5 or 10 more, they will have to lie down, just in time to reunite with his dead father and mother in the underworld. Does Li Chen think that we didn't take action against him later, so he really thinks that the Li family's ancestral land is a blessed land? There was an unspeakable sarcasm in his tone. Du Xiaohu frowned. If you ask me, there is no need to make a big fuss about this matter. If Li Chen is sensible, he will tell us everything he knows and understands. We are not interested in taking action against a waste like him, but if he dares to make trouble in Rongcheng, we don't need that big shot to come forward, we can solve him. I don't know what's going on in the capital. They actually let this kind of waste stir up the storm. The tone was full of contempt. Be careful with your words, Du Xiaohu shouted coldly. Grandpa, look, how can my dad accomplish anything with his personality? Du Xingyuan complained about his father. I still like my uncle's style, no weakness, no nonsense, just destroy it when it comes. Who is Li Chen? If those big shots were not waiting to study the things left by his parents, he would have been chopped into pieces long ago. Du Jiali smiled slightly, and did not blame his nephew for being straightforward. Old man Du Yu smiled and said, you mean, our Du family should take action directly? No, no, no. Du Xingyuan changed his words, although I said so, we must not be careless. Even if Li Chen was a waste before, he may not be now. It is not a good thing to underestimate the enemy. This time, my Du family does not need to come forward. Let the Gao family test it first. Oh. Grandpa, didn't you say that it is interesting to drive the wolf to swallow the tiger? Doesn't the Gao family want to gain a foothold? Well, give him a chance. Kill Li Chen, and Rongcheng will still be one of the 4 major families in the future. Du Xingyuan laughed and said, what do you think? Ha ha ha, the good grandson is still sensible. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Country Life of a Rich Dad. Author, Wo Shihami Gua. Chapter 446. Dad. Li Biwu lay on the seat and asked, what are we going to do? To see your grandparents, Li Chen said. Li Biwu tilted her head and said, why don't grandparents come and live with Xiaowu? Li Zifeng on the side pulled Li Biwu and winked at her. Second sister, are your eyes swollen? Li Zifeng. She hugged Li Biwu and told her stupid sister not to talk nonsense. Rongcheng. He came back to the place where Li Chen had lived for many years. Cemetery. The graves of Li Hoxian and Zhao Yufeng are over there. When the car stopped far outside, Wu Chuping and others did not get out of the car. Li Chen, Nangong Hongchuo got out of the car, walked over quickly and said, I'll accompany you. Among the 8 strong men, only he dared to talk to Li Chen like this. The others were a little restrained. Okay, Li Chen agreed. Nangong Hongchuo squatted in front of Li Zifeng and said, I'll hold you. No need, Li Zifeng shook her hair. It's far, very tiring, Nangong Hongchuo asked with a smile. I'm very powerful. I don't believe it. Swish. Li Zifeng kicked, Nangong Hongchuo's eyelids jumped, and he immediately grabbed Li Zifeng's foot. You are so young, how can you be so insidious, you? Nangong Hongchuo's face changed, have you reached Mingjin? Humph, Li Zifeng raised her head proudly, pulled back her long legs, and quickly chased after her. Damn it, Nangong Hongchuo shook his head, Li Chen was a monster, but how could a little girl be so fierce? How old is she, and she is already Mingjin? Then when she enters the Grandmaster realm in the future, won't she be younger than Li Chen? Nangong Hongchuo quickly caught up, and couldn't help looking at the baby Li Biwu lying on Li Chen's shoulder. Li Biwu was also staring at Nangong Hongchuo with her big round eyes, and the two of them stared at each other. Why are you looking at me? Li Biwu was the first to lose his temper. Xiao is pretty. Hee, don't bother me. Li Chen. Li Zifeng. They would never admit that they were so narcissistic. On the contrary, Nangong Hongchuo thought this little kid was very interesting. Then can you practice martial arts? Haha, Li Biwu clenched her chubby little fist and gestured to the air a few times, my dad can't beat me. Nangong Hongchuo. Fortunately, this little girl doesn't seem to have a talent for martial arts. If she did, the Li family would be in trouble. Soon, Li Chen walked to the tombstone and put Li Biwu down. At the same time, he put the flowers here and put some things on it. Li Zifeng led Li Biwu to prevent this stupid sister from being ignorant. Nangong Hongchuo stood a little further away and looked around. Li Chen lit the incense and candles, and pulled the somewhat confused Xiao and Xiaofeng to kneel down. Xiao, this is the grave of your grandparents, kowtow to them. Oh, Li Biwu realized something and kowtowed in the same way as her second sister. This time, Li Biwu kowtowed very seriously. She was still muttering something in her mouth. Grandpa and Grandma, Xiao is here to see you. Don't worry, Xiao will be a good father sooner or later. Listening to the little girl's serious muttering, Li Chen's heart warmed. Mom and Dad, did you see it? This is your eldest granddaughter and little granddaughter, very cute and very sensible. Didn't you say you like children very much? I brought them to see you today. Li Chen whispered. Just as he pressed his hands to the ground and kowtowed, his expression changed slightly, and he couldn't help but look at the cemetery. Empty. Li Chen paused, but continued to kowtow. But there were storms in his heart. Where are the remains of my parents? He just wanted to check it out, but he never expected this result. Was it dug up by someone, or did something happen? Or, they are not dead? But how is this possible? Li Chen never thought that this matter would involve more and more people. At the moment, he could not show it, but a sense of uneasiness surged in his heart. If they are not dead, it is naturally a good thing. The fear is that they are still dug up after they die. He absolutely cannot tolerate such a thing. Li Zifeng pulled Li Biwu up and patted the grass on his pants. After picking up Xiao Wu, Li Chen walked out with a slightly ugly face, and Nangong Hongchuo slowly followed. For some reason, he felt that Li Chen at this moment was a little different from Li Chen before. Where are you going? Gao's house, Li Chen said. Okay, Wu Chuping and others immediately drove and followed Li Chen to the location of Gao's house. Gao's house. Although they were alert, they seemed very quiet and peaceful. At this time, the Gao family was having dinner in the Gao family compound. It was to celebrate Gao Ziyage's escape from the jaws of death. At this table, besides the Gao family, only Emojia's Hung sat down. Gao Durong glanced at Gao Ziyage, who immediately stood up and picked up the wine glass. Although there were still some bruises on his face, they were no longer serious. Grandmaster, thank you for saving me from the gates of hell this time. I toast you with this glass of wine. Emojia's Hung smiled slightly and raised his glass at the same time, saying, I wish our cooperation goes well. Boom. There was a loud bang. Then a figure came directly, and with a loud bang, all the dishes on the table were smashed and splashed. Gao Durong and others stood up in fear, looking at the young man holding the child at the door with a bad face. Li Biwu covered her eyes with both hands, but the gaps between her fingers were a little wide, and her cherry mouth was wide open. The food and wine are good, the visitor laughed. Li Chen. Li Chen, who came with Li Biwu, looked at Gao Ziyage. Once, they were also brothers in distress. But now, Li Chen felt that calling this brother was really an insult to the word brother. Li Zifeng followed behind Li Chen under the protection of Nangong Hongchuo and Shen Jian, who was only in the middle stage of the Grand Master. Although the people of the Gao family were very angry, they were not in a hurry at all. They had expected and prepared for Li Chen's arrival, and they were also sure from the bottom of their hearts that Li Chen could not cause any trouble. Li Chen, do you want to die? Gao Junren, who was sitting next to him, stood up and shouted angrily, you are so brave to trespass into my Gao family. A stray dog dared to be so arrogant, he simply didn't take the Gao family seriously. Li Chen didn't want to communicate with the person who scolded him. He pointed at Gao Ziaja and said, come with me. Li Chen, don't be so presumptuous, this is the Gao family. Gao Junren saw that the waste who used to be as good as his eldest brother dared to ignore him, and he immediately said angrily, come here, break his dog legs and knock out his dog teeth. The Country Life of a Rich Dad. Author, Wo Shihami Gua. Chapter 447. The Gao family is not short of money, so naturally there are people willing to work for the Gao family. Especially after embezzling part of the Li family's assets, they are even more short of money. Today's Gao family is even stronger than before. Not every master has a family behind him. Those who really have a family backing are often a minority, and most of them rely on themselves to fight alone. Or, they rely on a large family that can pay a high fee. The Gao family is the same. There are masters of martial arts at the master level. Maybe the Gao family can't hire a few, but it's not difficult to hire masters below the master. With the cold shout of the third son of the Gao family, countless masters rushed out from all directions. There are more levels of Ming Jin, and there are even more An Jin, and there are even 2 martial arts masters. The small Rongcheng Gao family can actually accommodate 2 martial arts masters, which is enough to show the Gao family's strong financial resources. However, one of them is a middle-level master, and the other is an early-level master. Relatively speaking, the great master is much more precious. After the 2 masters stood up, they naturally put on a master's demeanor. Young man, why don't you apologize to the third master quickly? Tang Xiao, who was in the early stage of the master, said in an imperative tone. Li Chen smiled when he heard this. He didn't need him to speak. Shen Jian, who was guarding Li Zifeng, had already stood up. When they saw Shen Jian, the pupils of the 2 masters of the Gao family shrank slightly. Boom! Shen Jian was like a cannonball fired from the spot, and the whole person was full of power. The moment his feet stepped on the ground to gain leverage, the ground suddenly cracked like a spider web. Stones flew. The next moment, he appeared in front of Tang Xiao. Looking for death, Tang Xiao shouted angrily, and at the same time, Lu Ronghui, a master in the middle stage of the master standing beside him, also took action. Because they felt a strong sense of threat and oppression from Shen Jian. Although Shen Jian was only in the early stage of the master before, he was at least immersed in it for decades. If it weren't for the serious injury in martial arts and the loss of blood and qi, he would have entered the middle stage of the Grand Master. Compared with these Grand Masters, his foundation is undoubtedly much deeper. A sharp sword energy emerged from Shen Jian's fingertips. Seeing that the opponent attacked at the same time, Shen Jian was not at all weak. 2 fists came with a loud sound, as if to pierce the house. Shen Jian pointed his sword finger at the fists of the 2 people, and saw that the faces of the 2 Grand Masters changed in horror, and blood had already popped out of their fists. As Shen Jian changed his sword finger and pressed his hands against the 2 people, the faces of the 2 people changed drastically again. Boom! It's a long story, but the battle ended in the blink of an eye. The 2 figures seemed to be hit by a super large truck and smashed directly into the wall behind them, forming a human shape. The rest of the masters below the Grand Master had no chance to attack at all. The confidence of the Gao family was hit to nothing at once. Gao Junren, the third son of the Gao family, looked extremely ugly. They hit a wall. So, they had to look at Emojia's Hung, who was sitting next to them. Shenjian, Emojia's Hung, who was sitting at the table without moving, looked at him coldly. I didn't expect that you, an old man, had a temporary breakthrough. As Emojia's Hung spoke, Li Chen, Nangong Hongchuo and Shenjian all looked over. It turned out to be you. Shenjian's momentum was not weak at all. Even when facing this great master, the Mo family master disappeared more than 10 years ago. I thought he was dead. It turned out that he was hiding here to enjoy himself. So, the confidence of the Gao family comes from you. Emojia's Hung smiled faintly, drank the wine in the glass, and said, the Li family will stay, you can go. He has great confidence. Shenjian smiled when he heard it. Then I really want to try how much real power the Mo family boxing has. As Shenjian finished speaking, his figure disappeared on the spot. When he appeared again, he was already standing beside Emojia's Hung, and pointed out a sword. A hissing sound was heard. But Emojia's Hung seemed not to see it. Old. He pushed out with one palm, obviously behind Shenjian, but he managed to be the first to arrive. Boom! Shenjian flew backwards, and finally landed steadily, step by step, crushing the floor. It was not until 7 or 8 steps later that he stabilized his body. The blood in his body surged violently. When everyone in the Gao family saw this scene, they finally regained their confidence. Li Biwu, who was in Li Chen's arms, stared at the scene with wide eyes, nervous and curious. And Li Zifeng beside him was watching with relish. Is this a martial arts master? Woof woof. Daodu also ran over and rested on Li Zifeng's legs. Li Zifeng picked it up and looked at the Gao family together. Shenjian rubbed his swollen fingers and said to Nangong Hongchuo, this is a bit tricky, you do it? Li Zifeng. Li Biwu, degree. Even Nangong Hongchuo didn't expect Shenjian to give in so quickly. I'll just try how strong the Grand Master is, Shenjian laughed and said, hurry up. Nangong Hongchuo was speechless, but still walked out. The sitting Emojia's Hung finally glanced over, interesting. He remembered that Nangong Hongchuo was only a mid-level Grand Master before. What happened to the martial arts world now? All the masters have made a temporary breakthrough. Or is it related to this bastard of the Li family? If so, then this trip to guard the Gao family was the right one. Emojia's Hung looked at Nangong Hongchuo with a playful look and said, I'm curious, how did you old immortals make a breakthrough? Tell me, maybe I can leave you a way out. Even if Nangong Hongchuo, the great master, stepped forward, Emojia's Hung was still calm and measured, without any worry. In his opinion, this kind of cultivation that was temporarily improved by crooked ways is also useless. The real strong ones all came step by step. Nangong Hongchuo couldn't help laughing when he heard what the other party said. Damn it, you are still pretending, right? Nangong Hongchuo punched Emojia's Hung in the face, full of anger. The mighty fist wind came, and the tearing force swept over. Emojiashan's eyes turned cold, and his heart condensed slightly. So strong. How is this possible? How can someone who was promoted temporarily have such a strong internal strength and fighting spirit? The stronger Nangong Hongchuo became, the more excited he was, because this meant that Li Chen must have something fishy. These guys who were about to die of old age all had a second spring, which was definitely a pleasant surprise. The two of them fought fist to fist, without holding back at all. Boom! The Gao family members widened their eyes, their faces full of disbelief. The Country Life of a Rich Dad. Author, Wo Shihami Gua. Chapter 448. From the beginning to the end, Emojia's Hung, who was a master and even had a sure win, was actually beaten. The confidence that the Gao family had just built up collapsed before it even came into play. Boom. As Ashen's face changed in shock, he flew backwards. The chair he sat on broke into small pieces of wood in an instant and finally hit the wall. Cracks spread out almost at a rapid speed. Before Hung could recover, Nangong Hungchuo had already caught him and threw him over his shoulder violently. Bang! The eyes of the Gao family jumped wildly, seeing this great master being smashed to the ground like he was being ravaged. The tiles broke into countless pieces with a crash, and even the floor had large holes. Bang, bang, bang. The whole Gao family seemed to be in an earthquake. Puff. How much he looked like a martial arts master before, how miserable he was at this time. Nangong Hungchuo punched down, and Hung spat out blood, his face horrified. I thought you were very capable, Nangong Hungchuo spat, you are so young and you don't learn well. Is it fun to pretend to be cool? Gaojia. Hung coughed up blood and his face was gloomy. He never expected that Nangong Hungchuo would be so perverted. You have successfully angered me. Hung said coldly. Bang. Nangong Hungchuo stepped down, and the entire concrete floor cracked, and a deep pit appeared. Hung was stepped on the face by Nangong Hungchuo on the spot, and blood gushed out, soaking the entire pit. I said you were fat, and you are still panting, Nangong Hungchuo kicked out, and Hung, whose face was covered with blood and whose nose bridge had collapsed, just slid in front of Li Chen. Li Chen immediately covered Li Biwu's eyes and said, "Don't look." Okay, Li Biwu turned his back to the Gao family, and lay on Li Chen's shoulder obediently, counting Li Chen's hair. Hung looked sad, looking at Li Chen who was looking down at him, his face full of anger. This Li family bastard dared to mock him with such eyes. He was furious. Northwest family. I'm curious, who are you working for? Li Chen asked in a low voice, are you working for the Gao family or the Murong family behind the Gao family? Or, are you using the name of the Murong family to play the double agent trick? You want to know? Then you beg me and I will tell you, ah. Before Hung finished speaking, he watched his legs shattered from the toes. This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Bang, bang, bang. A cloud of blood mist exploded. Li Chen gently patted Li Biwu while watching the ghostly howling Hung, and Xiao Wu seemed to hear no sound. Ashen's face was full of fear, watching the bones of his feet shattered, and finally the bones of his calves broke inch by inch. This was simply torture. I'll tell you, I'll tell you. Hung begged. The so-called Grandmaster style had long disappeared at this moment. I'm sorry, I don't want to listen now, Li Chen shook his head, and the sound of bang, bang, bang bang rang out. Ashen's legs were shattered under the gaze of the Gao family. He lay on the ground, only breathing. He had fainted from the pain and couldn't speak. Li Chen waved his arm, and Hung and the blood on the ground were thrown into the corner, and then he walked towards the Gao family. At this moment, the Gao family was scared. Li Chen dragged a chair and sat down, looking at the dish that fell on the ground, feeling a little sorry. Xiao Wu. Yeah. Do you want to eat chicken legs? Next. Li Biwu was overjoyed and took the big chicken leg from Li Chen's hand, his eyes flickering. Li Chen held his little daughter, glanced at everyone in the Gao family, and finally locked his eyes on Gao Ziyajia's face. Gao Ziyajia was so scared that he knelt down and begged, Li Chen, it's none of my business, I don't know anything. I haven't asked yet, how do you know it's none of your business? Gao Ziyajia. Look at you, the first sentence you say is very dishonest. Li Chen's right hand was placed on Gao Ziyajia's shoulder, and with a click, the whole arm was removed. Gao Ziyajia wailed miserably. Gao Durong took a deep breath, stood up with trembling legs and feet, and said, Li Chen, what do you want? Oh, it turned out to be Uncle Gao. Li Chen looked at Gao Durong with a surprised face, as if he had just seen him. You. Boom. Gao Durong didn't say a word, and the whole person flew out, spurting blood from his mouth, his face pale. The rest of the Gao family members knelt down in fear. I'm sorry, Li Chen hurriedly said. Uncle Gao, are you okay? Gao Durong's face was pale, staring at Li Chen. It's all my fault for not controlling my temper. Isn't it because the Gao family and the Li family were originally of the same blood? Why did our Li family get into trouble, and your Gao family jumped up and became the superior people? Li Chen's playful tone made people feel depressed. The brighter he smiled, the more frightened the Gao family members were. Gao Junren, who had scolded Li Chen before, was so scared that he fell to the ground at this moment, and his pants were soaked. The whole person couldn't help shaking and trembling. The more Li Chen ignored him, the more afraid he was. This feeling of waiting to be dealt with was really unpleasant. Gao Durong wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, slowly got up and said, if a man does not work for himself, he will be punished by heaven and earth. What's more, so many people are eyeing your Li family. Don't you understand the principle of a friend dies rather than a poor Taoist? We are all adults, who still wants to play brotherhood. Li Chen sighed, my father's character is really bad. He treated you as a brother, but you turned around and stabbed him in the back. He still has to bear the stupid stigma, which is ridiculous. Gao Durong did not refute. When he learned that someone was plotting against the Li family, he had already made a decision. What brotherhood, how much is it worth? The opportunity for the Gao family to leap forward has come. It's just that the group of people were unwilling to root out the roots in the end, otherwise how could today's disaster happen? It would be a lie to say that I really don't regret it. But things have happened, and Gao Durong doesn't think there is any use in regretting. When Li Chen came today, he knew there were only two results. First, he killed Li Chen, and second, Li Chen killed him. Obviously, his support was not strong enough and was broken by Li Chen. Li Chen did not look at Gao Durong again, but at Gao Ziaja. Do you want to die or live? I want to live, I want to live. Gao Ziaja nodded repeatedly with snot and tears. No one wants to die, especially him. Li Chen leaned back in his chair, glanced at Xiao Wu who was chewing the chicken leg with relish, and said, then tell me everything you know. Your Gao family is not loyal, but I, Li Chen, will still be loyal. Hearing this, Gao Ziaja felt like he had grabbed a life-saving straw. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Country Life of a Rich Dad. Author, Wo Shihami Gua. Chapter 449. Seeing his son kneeling on the ground begging for mercy, Gao Durong closed his eyes in pain. If he hadn't been so indulgent back then, maybe he would still have a little more backbone today. But Gao Durong also knew very well that these two martial arts masters alone were enough to destroy the insignificant Gao family. Li Chen looked at Gao Ziaja who was kneeling on the ground and said, when you came into contact with me, was it intentional or unintentional? Gao Ziaja was about to speak, but Li Chen shook his head slightly. I hope you will think carefully before answering any question. Once you make a mistake, you will never have the chance to speak again. Thinking of the scenes he had with Li Chen, but now the difference between them is as high as heaven and earth, he couldn't help crying even more. I only made friends with you because we had similar interests and had no other thoughts, Gao Ziaja said in a very affirmative tone. Oh, Li Chen nodded lightly, then taking me to a place like that to donate, did you do it intentionally or unintentionally? Intentional, Gao Ziaja said without any hesitation. Who ordered it? Gao Ziaja hesitated and looked at Gao Durong. Gao Durong sighed and said, it's me. Gao Ziaja let out another shrill scream, and his other arm was removed by a force of force. Seeing his son suffering such inhuman torture, Gao Durong's face was filled with anger. Looking at the two arms hanging down, Gao Ziyage's pale face was covered with fine beads of sweat. Even the clothes were soaked through. "It's my dad, it was my dad who ordered." Gao Ziyage, who had never experienced much pain, his veins popped out and he roared at the top of his lungs. "Then who instigated your father?" "Murong family." Gao Ziyage didn't even hesitate. Li Chen pondered for a moment and looked at Gao Durong. "Uncle Gao, there are still some things that my nephew is not clear about." Li Chen showed a kind smile, as if the cruel thing just now was not his doing. Gao Durong knew that after today there was probably no need for the Gao family to survive. "If you don't want the whole family to be wiped out, it's best to confess now." "You ask?" Gao Durong sat on the ground dejectedly, as if he had lost his soul. From the moment he betrayed the Li family, he expected that such a day would come, but he didn't expect it to come so quickly. "Are the Murong family really the supporters behind your Gao family?" Hearing this, Gao Durong was stunned. "Is not it? There don't seem to be many experts in the Murong family. I have been in contact with them all. This senior Mo Jiazheng seems to be from the Mo family in the northwest. How come he has nothing to do with the Murong family?" Li Chen asked doubtfully. Gao Durong smiled bitterly and said, "You should ask the great master about this. Do you think a small family like us is qualified to know their affairs? What I know is that it was precisely because the Murong family came to our door in person and promised that the Gao family would rise, that we agreed at that time." "Murong Hungs?" "Yes." Li Chen's heart tightened. It turned out to be this old guy Murong Hungs. In that case, my meeting with Schwerer was actually not a coincidence. He planned it all with one hand and controlled it with the other. Li Chen felt a burst of anger in his heart. No matter whether Schwerer and I met each other for a long time, I was interested in him. It doesn't matter if we miss each other or miss each other, because I was already in the game at that time. Gao Durong didn't know this, but he knew that the wily old man calculated everything. "Ha ha!" Li Chen sneered, "the role of your Gao family is indispensable. It may not seem important, but it is the key to success or failure. But I'm very curious. Why did you, the four major families, join forces to seize my parents' experimental base? I remember that our Li family's technology is not too outstanding. Even if the technology comes out, it will only slightly subvert the current balance. It won't end so many people, right?" This time it was Gao Durong's turn to laugh. "You really don't know anything about your Li family." "Oh? Then please clear up your doubts, Uncle Gao," Li Chen said generously. "As long as I am satisfied, it is not impossible to keep your Gao family." Everyone in the Gao family looked at Gao Durong with pleading expressions. "Everyone's life and death are in your hands. Don't you know that your Li family is actually a descendant of the Li family from the capital?" "The Li family of the capital? You mean the one that was destroyed 120 years ago?" Li Chen frowned slightly. "Is there a connection between this?" "That's right," Gao Durong said, "although I don't know things about the upper class, I do know some secrets. For example, the Li family was very prosperous in the 150th year. At that time, the Li family was divided into two major ethnic groups. One was from a small mountain village. One is the capital. Later, because of one person, they merged together and merged into a team, but in the end they separated again. It was also at that time that martial arts training officially started. Even in the 30 years from 150 to 120, countless romantic figures emerged, and the world structure was greatly reshuffled. Since the leader of the Li family ascended to the throne, the Li family in the capital gradually began to decline until it was officially removed from the capital 120 years ago. Soaring in the day? Above the realm of heaven and man? Li Chen's heart trembled. Was it the ancestors of the Li family who started the martial arts practice in China? As for how the Li family was destroyed, I think only the martial arts community and a small number of people know it, Gao Durong said. Li Chen made a move with his right hand, and Emojias Hung, whose face was covered with blood but was not dead yet, appeared in front of Li Chen. Tell me about you. Emojiashan's face was covered with blood, and he grinned at Li Chen and said, Li Chen, you Li family are sinners and you can't escape. Emojias Hung, if you want to die, I will help you, Nangong Hangchuo scolded angrily. Bah, Emojias Hung spat and laughed loudly. Li Chen, do you think this matter is over for you? No, the real people hiding behind are enough to kill you. I'm not killing you, I'm just waiting for that thing to appear. Once locked, you will die. Emojias Hung laughed wildly. However, Li Chen was calm from beginning to end and did not get angry because of Emojiashan's provocation. So, some of the wealthy families that exist in the capital today are actually related to the original time, right? Li Chen smiled lightly and said, the Murong family planned these. I have already guessed that the martial arts world has become prosperous, but the road is also broken. When the prosperity declines, some people will naturally be dissatisfied. It seems that it is not incomprehensible for the Li family to be pushed off the altar. You are just a dog. You can't even cross the realm of heaven and man. You don't even know who is controlling it. I really don't know what you can be proud of. Even if I, Li Chen, die, I will die behind you. What do you say you are happy about? The Country Life of a Rich Dad. Author, Wo Shihami Gua. Chapter 450. Emojiashan's face was ferocious and twisted, and a mouthful of blood spurted out again. Li Chen shook his head in disgust. You don't even understand the meaning of your own life, so you have the nerve to come in and disturb the situation? Emojias Hung, if I were you I would have killed you long ago. Do you know what their purpose is for targeting my Li family? Do you know how many forces are involved now? Do you know who the Murong family is pursuing behind the scenes? You don't know. You don't even understand why the Murong family is keeping an eye on me and why it is necessary to have a child born between me and Murong Shui. Does this have anything to do with the Li family that was destroyed 120 years ago? Emojiashan's face was dull, as if his spinal cord had been removed. You are so pitiful. Li Chen kicked him away. I'm not interested in knowing who you are, or you can just be a disruptor. Emojias Hung lay on the ground, looking like a stiff corpse. He was extremely frustrated. The hit was worthless. Because he found that he really couldn't answer the doubts raised by Li Chen. As Li Chen said, who is behind Emojias Hung? Does it matter? Unimportant. Because the chess pieces will not jump out of this circle. Li Chen knew in his heart that the red skull counted as one, the capital circle counted as one, and at most the small circle in Chengdu. It's a pity that he will soon overthrow the society in Rongcheng. Presumably, those of them who are watching the show from behind will have wonderful expressions on their faces. Li Chen couldn't help but laugh when he saw Xiao Wu throwing away the chicken bones and burping. Is it tasty? Good time, Li Biwa chuckled. Li Chen took out a tissue and gently wiped the oil stains from the corners of her mouth. Gao Durong, for the sake of your honesty, I won't kill you today. Li Chen stood up slowly and said, however, if I know any new clues, then your Gao family will. The whole family is about to be destroyed. Gao Durong said nothing. As punishment, I, Li Chen, will take all the things belonging to the Gao family. Yu Gao Jianchun and Gao Yayun were furious. If everything is taken away, how can the Gao family survive? Become a beggar? Li Chen didn't look at him, and Shen Yanqing would arrive with someone soon. If the Gao family cooperates, then it's okay for him to keep these old, weak, sick, and disabled people, but if the Gao family doesn't cooperate, then they will be destroyed together. The Li family's property has been divided among them, and they still want to live without bearing the losses. It's too simple. Li Chen, just as Li Chen was about to leave, Emoji's Hung looked over and said, "Can you win?" "Is this important?" Li Chen chuckled. Emoji's Hung was stunned again and smiled sadly, "That's right." As Li Chen left the Gao family, Shen Jian and Nangong Hangchuo followed quickly with Li Zifeng. "Shen Yanqing, come out and clean up the mess." Li Chen picked up the phone and said, "Yes." After Li Chen sat in the car, Nangong Hengqing asked, "Just let them go like this?" "I keep my word." "You are a woman's benevolence. If they don't die, they will definitely hold a grudge." Nangong Hangchuo said, "The master is not responsible for killing people. This is an ironclad rule." There was a hint of playfulness on Li Chen's lips, and he said to Wu Chuping, "Senior Wu, please do me a favor." "What's the matter?" "Keep an eye on the Gao family. Prepare to save people." Just as Li Chen drove away, a figure appeared at the Gao family. Looking at the ground where the battle had just ended, this figure walked towards the members of the Gao family who had not yet recovered. "Sir," when they saw the person coming, whether it was Emoji's Hung or Gao Derong, they were overjoyed. "Li Chen has come." "Yes, this boy has brought two masters, we can't stop him." Trash the visitor snorted coldly and said, "Now that the matter has been completed, you can get on your way." "Sir, how could you?" Before he could finish his words, Gao Yayun who spoke had already died tragically. "Mom," Gao Junren roared angrily, "if you dare to kill my mother, I will." Boom. Gao Junren was kicked out. When Emoji's Hung saw this, he struggled to crawl away. "Dad, it was him who kidnapped." Gao Ziaja backed away in horror. Click. Gao Derong looked at the visitor blankly, his lips trembling, it was you who kidnapped my son, you are not from the Murong family." "When did I say that I was from the Murong family?" The man smiled and left the tragically dead Gao Ziaja aside. Gao Derong understood immediately, "You and the Grand Master of the Mo family are in the same group. You directed and acted in a play. You had no intention of letting our Gao family go. It's a pity that you found out too late." The man smiled and said, "Remember to go down and apologize to Li Hoxiang. After all, he must be very sad when you stabbed him in the back." Seeing the people of the Gao family falling one after another, Gao Derong looked desperate and his eyes were full of resentment. Unexpectedly, the Gao family has been a pawn from beginning to end, and their fate has been doomed from the beginning. The Murong family had taken action before, but they had never taken action since. It was ridiculous that I thought these people were also members of the Murong family. "Sir." Emoji's Hung was covered in blood. "What a good thing, I almost failed you." The visitor shook his head, "Since you are so seriously injured, why don't you die too, Hu?" "I didn't expect that Master Li's guess was right. Someone would really come to kill and silence us." Wu Chuping walked out with a smile. The man's hair stood on end, and he turned and ran away, not even caring about Emoji's Hung and Gao Derong, the only two survivors. "Daiyu, since you are here, why don't you talk?" Wu Chuping grabbed with one hand, and the sky and the earth changed color. In the car, Li Bua grabbed Nangong Hengchuo's beard and played with it, but Nangong Hengchuo didn't care. "You have been preparing to do this for a long time." After hearing the recent news, Nangong Hengchuo was dumbfounded. He said that Li Chen was a woman's kindness, but it turned out that he had been hiding for a long time. "It's just thinking one more step." Li Chen chuckled and said, "Let's go. It is said that there are big people waiting for me in the Cai family. I am also very curious. Is it the Red Skull or the Beijing people?" Nangong Hengchuo couldn't help but shiver. "I didn't expect that this kid looked young, but his ability to calculate people was really not exaggerated." He thought Li Chen was really righteous and gave the Gao family a way out, but he didn't know that Li Chen wanted to use the hand of the Dark Man to wipe out the roots. Saving the desperate Emoji's Hung and the head of the Gao family, if used properly, is another good move. As for Gao Derong, even if he understood the key, what does it matter? Not only can he not resent Li Chen, but he has to thank Li Chen, because it was Li Chen's backhand that saved him, allowing him to survive and have the opportunity to take revenge.